The cough, it hurts. The pustules are being cut open, but this doctor is doing more. Chopping and sewing. Every stitch is so painful you pass out. When you awaken, the doctor gives you a look. Your body isn't the same as it was before. It hurts, and the final stages of the plague take over as you lose the light in your eyes. Welcome to the second Haunting Files episode of A Delve Deeper. I'm your host, Nate, and I'm here with my co host, Joey.
Well, howdy.
And this is a podcast where we dive into all things dark, paranormal, and cryptid. Each one with a story, origin, reports, and more, leading us to a truth that may have been long forgotten, and I hope to make your skin crawl, your heart race, and your vision haze as we attempt to take a delve deeper into the island of Poveglia.
Exactly. And oh boy, did I learn a lot of things that were horrifically wrong with this entire thing, man. Holy shit, did I learn a lot about, not only just the island itself, but, there's like a whole, well, I guess you can't say that it was like a doctor that was there to do the correct things, but there was documented stuff of a doctor being there experimenting on people that had the plague.
They found it in a triple digit year, so before the year 1000, triple digit year, and they just immediately decided, yeah, this place is gonna be fucked up.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that he would experiment with, I found some reports and documents that were there, and I was like, my brother in Christ, what the fuck did this dude actually, that's insane. Imagine you're just sent to this isle, and you're like, all right, well, I'm sick, so I'm probably gonna die here, but all right. And then they're just like, oh yeah, these doctors are gonna help you out, and they're like, all right, yeah, we're just gonna perform some light surgery, bite on this, and then all of a sudden they're hacking off parts, and they're like, well, people can live without this thing. Yeah, some of the stuff he does is insane. Removing, this is actually where partially we learn that you can live without 2 kidneys.
Yep.
Yeah.
This place, as messed up as it is, actually did get referenced in a lot of medical knowledge and research and stuff. As messed up as it is, I'm not saying it's right by any means, but the knowledge that was learned through his experiments has gone on to develop more helpful tools and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Which is it isn't all medical stuff that way though. I mean, come on, man. I mean, this dude was literally opening dudes up, and he just takes a thing out, and he's like, okay, nurse, see how long this guy lives without this thing. Put it back if he needs it.
Yeah. Homie was out here treating people like Legos, man. He was like, no, we'll just swap that one out.
Yeah, there's some gross shit that happens there, man. But this place is incredibly haunted from what what I've learned from you, because before this I hadn't really researched or looked at this before. It's never really come to my attention.
Yep, it's considered one of the most haunted places in the world, if not the most. I know it's one of the most. And you need special permission from the Italian government to be able to even set foot there.
I saw that, and there is a permitted tour that is housed by the government there as well. So
yep. But if you read the rules of that, they have a strict
crazy
curfew that they will not be there after sundown.
Yep. And if you're caught there, it is a hefty fine, my guy.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, let's go ahead and get into the early history here, because it's in the South Lagoon between Venice and Lido. Sits this island of Poveglia that for centuries has been kind of like a refuge stronghold and a place of exile, and pretty much a big ass dumping ground for the diseased, dying, and the dead in 421. Yeah, so the exact
triple digit year.
Yeah. Poveglia welcomed its first inhabitants in 421, men, women, and children who fled the barbaric invaders that had ravaged the mainland. Which,
Yeah, they got there in
okay,
a fucked up way, lived there a fucked up way.
yep,
Like,
and it's a relatively small size made an island defendable and made it defendable and not worth the trouble of invading armies. So they kind of were just like, yeah, they just let them have that little thing. Who cares,
right.
whatever. The invaders moved on, and for centuries, this small community lived in peace and avoided the laws and taxes of mainlands. And their population dwindled by the 14th century, and the island was once again abandoned. In 1348, the bubonic plague arrived in Venice and Poveglia. Like many other small islands, it became a quarantine colony. Which,
Yeah.
for
So
those of you that don't know, and you should know, quarantine means that you do not leave a certain place. I'm pretty sure all of you know that, but I know many of you did not follow those rules, and that's okay. But so the plague killed one of out of 3 Europeans. Which, by the way, if you didn't already know, the bubonic plague took out I'm pretty sure what was it, 1/3 of the world.
of the world, yeah, it was
Yeah.
insane. So
So
1 out of 3 Europeans, yeah, 1/3 of the world. Weird.
so legitimately 1/3 of
Yeah.
the world was destroyed from not washing your hands and shitting in the street. So
Right,
remember
but I
that.
do think it's funny that Venice, Italy was like, people here getting sick? Fuck that. Send them to that island where those people were that one time. That, the people that almost were murdered and then just died out. We never found out why. Send them over there. Just
Exactly. For real, dude. And so, fearing the unbridled spread of the disease, Venice exiled many of its symptomatic bearing citizens there. And it was clearly just a death sentence.
yeah.
Like, and this is the thing too, is there's so many written accounts. It's like, oh, I'm going to Poveglia. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
I will die there. Tell my family I love them. Good luck to everyone. And you're like,
Right.
oh, you just
For
last text message.
it's
Shit.
basically how it almost was in the US with Alcatraz. Like if you were
Yeah.
getting sent there, you were probably gonna die there. Like
Exactly, and you knew it. That's the
yeah,
thing,
and
is
you
they
knew.
knew this. They're like, yeah, we ain't seen anybody come back from here, so I'm probably not coming back, guys.
Yeah.
And so at the island's center, the dead and those too sick to protest were burned on giant pyres. Which, yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk on that a little bit. So they would take people that weren't even dead yet, and they were
Yeah.
just like, well, I mean, they're gonna
Dying and
die
super
in like a
sick.
day or so. Let's just fucking burn them. Just throw them on the
Yeah.
pile, dude. Throw them on the pile.
Yeah. And the key word in that sentence, by the way, is too sick to protest. So basically, they were just so sick they couldn't say no, and they were like, good enough for me, basically dead.
They're
Like,
they're just to come up. I just imagine the doctor's like, "Hello, sir. Can we throw you onto the burning pile?" And he's like, I think he
that,
said yes, nurse. Go ahead and put him on the gurney and get him out of here.
yeah, that's not a no.
So you're saying there's a chance? All right. Yeah.
So
So
it's that whole Monty Python thing where he's like, I'm not quite dead. He's like, no, no, he is. He'll be dead soon. And then, like,
yeah. And
it's
this is
insane.
tens of thousands of citizens, by the way.
Oh, yeah. It
That were
wasn't
done
just like
this.
a couple people here and
It
there.
wasn't
No,
like
no.
100,000. This is up close to I believe it was almost 100,000 people. It
Yeah,
was a lot,
it was insane.
and these fires burned once more in 1630 when the Black Death swept through the city a second time, 300 years later. And
Yep,
mind
they
you,
were
this is
just
all
like, it
before.
worked 300 years ago. Why not?
Yeah, again, you got to understand too that this worked because they basically wiped out the entire island.
Right.
And the reason that it's so crazy to me is I'm like, imagine you're like, man, we did it, guys. We beat the plague. And then 200 years later, you're like, guys, what happened? The plague is back. And it's like, oh, well, some things kind of went wrong. We started shitting in the streets again. You're just like,
Steve didn't get vaccinated. Fucking Steve. Just like,
but that whole era to me is insane. And a little bit more on that one with the whole doctor bit too, because I want to go into that guy because he had some stuff.
Yeah,
I can't remember
Joey,
his
didn't you know
exact.
that simple kitchen herbs like sage, basil, and thyme, as long as you shove them up your nose, you're safe from the bubonic plague. You didn't know that? It's common practice.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. You are so right, buddy. So these plague doctors, as you know, everybody loves plague doctors, and there is a huge resurgence in their popularity that came about in like the 2010s, and from then on, it's been really really popular. But a lot of people forget to mention a lot of the things that they did that medically help them. And the reason that, because their belief system that doesn't get talked on a lot. I love to talk about their belief system. So the beliefs that they have was that if they used herbs, and they were originally formed from apothecaries,
Right.
which is, if you don't know what an apothecary is somebody that deals with dead people, already dead people. So when you send somebody that is like, oh, I deal with dead people, to deal with sick people, they have some really weird ritualistic things that come into play there. Because like a lot of the times, like the plague, obviously that shit's rank.
Oh
That
yeah.
that if you've never, I mean, for those of you that have never smelled anything dead or whatever, you have had it easy. I have
Yeah.
smelled, living out in the country when I was young. I used to. There was a couple times you would see like a dead cow or something, and that shit would reek
Oh
for
yep. And then
like
bloat.
if it ever popped, which I've seen one like
Yep.
bursted before. If that stench does not go away for weeks. And so
Yeah.
you got to think that these pustules and this black plague stuff is just a bunch of necrotic pockets.
Not to mention,
So,
all of
ew.
this takes place before the invention of indoor plumbing.
That's why I said shitting in the streets.
Yep. Yep.
They used to just have a bucket, and they used to throw it out the window, and then a guy would come by every week and just sweep the
Yep.
shit. That was his
Yep.
whole job, and then he'd put it into the back of a wagon, and he'd just dump it off in a random ditch and cover it in dirt every week. So they also didn't really believe, like, obviously if you don't have plumbing, you don't have running water. So
Right.
washing your hands wasn't really a thing in this point. We really didn't discover that fucking washing your hands did anything until I believe around like the 16, no, I want to say it was closer to the 1700s that we were like, hey guys, I don't know if you know this, like, less people die if we wash our hands between each surgery. And that was before penicillin. That was before all this other stuff that we have now. We didn't even learn
Right.
that babies felt pain until 1970s. So
Right.
we would just
Not to
perform
mention,
open surgery on that shit. So
washing everything else too, cups and dishes and stuff that you frequently use. That didn't come around till later too. Um, and people are still learning about cleaning. So when I learned about soap, the way I learned it is soap covers the germs. Then you rinse off because the germs get all slippery because of the slope, and they slide off when you rinse your hands off and stuff. But I just recently learned in the year 2024 that people in Britain, when they wash their dishes, they don't rinse the soap off. They just let it dry like that.
yeah, so that's not how we're not gonna get into that. But you
Yeah.
know what? That's fine.
I
You know
was
what?
like,
It's
what?
okay. Yeah,
So,
and
so people are still learning. It was the point of
we're
that,
still
by the
learning.
way, is people are still
We're
learning
still learning.
how cleaning and keeping things truly sterile and stuff is. So I can't imagine this long ago, and it's not like they had Google. They couldn't just look it up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, Gerald. He was the guy
yeah,
that knew it
yeah,
all.
Gerald. Just some dude that was the wise man, and you hoped he wasn't bullshitting you. Just kind of had to take it on faith.
I'm just saying, man, it was nuts. But the whole thing that like I see over and over again is like these plague doctors. One of their biggest things that they actually did that came to bring about what many of you didn't wear during our pandemic is a mask.
Yeah,
So
the
they
big
they
beak.
wore masks themselves, and these were stuffed with a bunch of herbs. And wouldn't you know, it was actually kind of hard to breathe in, actually, because they were leather and they had two little holes in the bottom, and they
It
just
would
shoved a
shove them.
bunch of like really concentrated like different herbs and flowers and whatnot, rosemary,
Basil,
stuff like that.
sage,
But
anything with a
they
heavy scent.
exactly, and they ground up these things and they packed it so full that yes, it was hard to breathe through, but it acted as a sieve so
Right.
that there was no way that anything can come through the mask. So when they were like, "Oh man, these guys are blessed by God," like legitimately, and they believed that 100% that their
Oh yeah.
belief in God was so strong that they could affected. They were like, "Bro, look, we believe in God this hard. Maybe you should just believe a little harder." You know, like like
just
you're dying on the table. You're like, please," and they're just like,
well,
"Hey,
if you
listen,
would have
bro.
put more on the collection plate, sorry.
If you, I'm just saying, bro. If you just would have believed a little harder, you could be like me. But these godless heathens, right?" And then just move
Right.
forward. Yeah, but in
You got
reality, what was protecting them was that stuffing of their masks, and it saved a lot of them, and that's why like hearing them get sick was something that they were like, "Oh, execute him.
it's very
He's a heathen.
similar.
He's a godless heresy."
It's very similar in the way gas masks work nowadays too, because they have the filter that filters everything. So that's that packed
Hmm.
herbs they thought was acting like a filter, and in their defense, it kind of worked for them.
It did. It did at the end of the day, and we learned a lot from that, as well as a lot of very scary things about
Yeah,
what happens in when you have a plague in a very small condensed area. Well, if you didn't know, if you have somebody sick next to you, more than likely you are going to get sick.
yeah.
I don't know if everybody knows that, but that's what happens.
That's how
Uh,
contagions work.
yeah, I'm just saying our older generation sometimes doesn't understand space as well as they should. But that's okay, you know, because I'm gonna dive right into we're gonna get more into more horrible shit because
Oh yeah.
right into the late 1800s, uh, they opened up an asylum on the same island.
And I
If
want to go on record before you get too hard into this with the asylum. I want to go on record and just say right now that a mental hospital and a mental asylum are two very different things. I had this argument with someone the other day. I do not feel like any mental asylum was there to help mentally ill people. I feel like that was the place you sent them to get experimented on so we could learn more about them. And that's why they don't exist anymore, and we have mental hospitals now and
Yeah,
rehabilitation centers.
that's why my horror purgatory game card game Escape the Asylum Purgatorio is not Escape the mental hospital Purgatorio,
Yeah.
because it's not a hospital. An
No.
asylum is not a good place. If you've ever heard of asylums, and if you're ever
Have
if you're
watched
a
a horror
true
movie.
horror connoisseur, or maybe you're into like watching some podcasts about murderers and shit, you know a lot about asylums.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, because they are the worst places that have ever come out of anywhere. And the worst part about it, like we were saying earlier, is like a ton of medical shit actually came from it. Like
Yeah.
like the guy that was like the guy that did oh, what was it? Oh, I can't remember what it's called.
The practices were horrific and damnable, but the knowledge was earned was also invaluable. There is better ways to have learned that, but it happened the way it happened. There's no changing it now. The practices were horrible, but the knowledge is invaluable.
Yep, and don't forget that that's where we originated the lobotomy, everyone.
Yep. Shock therapy too, I believe.
Yeah, which if you didn't know, was I'm pretty sure it was made by what was it? He was made by a he was a dentist or something.
Yep, I believe
Yeah,
so. I believe you're right, a
yeah.
dentist.
Which That's insane. Were you also an electrician? I don't I don't know, man. That's
You see, if I
pretty
pump
crazy.
enough volts through you, your teeth will shoot right out your damn skull. No,
Apparently, we I well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I mean, you know what's actually insane too is that the reason that they covered you in water before you were electrocuted by that is because it doesn't leave burn marks. If you are killed from electricity being submerged in water, it doesn't leave burn marks.
Yeah, I believe
Which
that's also why they put the wet
is
sponge on your head in the electric chair when they used
yep,
that was like same thing. It didn't like burn
hmm
your scalp and stuff.
yep, it wouldn't burn you. So it that is so weird to me, and like that's just something that I came across a lot of fucked up shit while learning about this thing,
Oh yeah.
and like again, they say that the terminology that they have too, just by the way, is like super old. So
Yeah.
don't at me when I use these phrases and things because
We are
at
written
the
them down
time
how they were expressed at the
at
time.
the time it was a different time.
Right.
So we yeah, like I didn't know, but there's like imbecile and like that was a medical term at some point. I
Oh, I
didn't know
didn't
that was
actually.
imbecile was referencing somebody. Let me look up the exact. But idiot and imbecile were two very different terms.
Right.
Like if you used idiot, it was referencing somebody that was like an age of 14 to 16 was an idiot. But if they were an
Right.
adult, right? So if they were an adult and their mental state was 14 to 16, they were an idiot. But if you were 9 to 14, you were an imbecile. And if you
Oh.
were anything below that, you were considered mentally retarded.
Oh,
So,
Jesus. I didn't know that.
yeah, there was like 3 stages. So if you were like, "Oh yeah, go take care of the 4 imbeciles in this room." You were like you knew as a nurse or a doctor or whoever that you were talking about people that were you know
Mentally not.
mentally aged
Gotcha.
14 and above to 16, right? So you're like,
Gotcha.
oh, but like 9 to 14, and then an idiot would be somebody who's more like a teenager, right? So it was super weird to learn about these different
Terms.
tiers. And
Yeah.
yeah, so we have so much stuff from that too. So these in the late 1800s, the Poveglia Asylum housed a lot of mentally ill, uh, and obviously it was poorly constructed, as all asylums have been,
Oh yeah, they
and
just
it was
threw it up. It
yeah.
was not. There was no
I mean,
regulations at the time.
the construction it was built. It was planned and built in less than a year. Let's put it that way. So it was not really. It was just kind of like a shack, a big shack to house these people. And
Right.
so it was a place of exile rather than rehabilitation, where we heard that before, right? So, okay, never in a million years would I ever think that this was not a place of exile. Anyway, but there are rumors that in the 1930s, a doctor performed strange experiments on patients here, and eventually the doctor went mad and threw himself off the asylum's tall bell tower. Though the
Yeah.
bell in the tower was removed decades ago, locals still claim to hear it chime echoes through the lonely aisle. But
Yeah, and
the
he
weird
said what
part
drove him
is,
mad was like a whole bunch of crazy shit. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go
oh
ahead, go
no,
for it.
no, you're good, you're good, keep going.
I was gonna say, what he said drove him mad was like he would, basically he butchered his patients. Like he did some messed up shit.
Yep,
He's the one that we got most of the knowledge from, to be fair. Um, but he said that like they were haunting him, and he was seeing like white shadows in the daylight, and he was hearing voices, and he was just constantly feeling nauseous, but not actually like throwing up or ill. And he said he just couldn't take it anymore.
yep, yep. I did see his little note of everything before he fell
Yeah.
down, yeah, made me
Ravings of a
fall. But
madman.
I was gonna say, this is actually reference culturally in what's it called? American Horror Story.
Yep.
So this doctor was based off of the doctor in the asylum portion season of that show. So, and in that show, spoiler if you haven't watched it, and it's been years at this point, but
It's
he
still
ends up
going though.
burning himself with the devil, right? And
Holy cow.
that's his end, is that he uses the crematory underneath the asylum to kill himself. Whereas this guy does not have such a. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just as dramatic, but I mean,
he
a
jumped
little
off the
different
top of the
dramatic.
bell tower, but yeah.
And this one, I did find some research that later on some other doctors and psychologists have kind of noted it up to like PTSD, as well as probably a mix of his own mental illness from being surrounded by the
Right.
mentally ill for so long. That they
Right.
were like, it's kind of probably a little bit of both, because they're like, well, as you can probably tell, cutting up human beings and kind of like taking pieces off and doing all this, not really good for your mental state, especially when you don't take a day off ever. So
Yeah.
they were like,
Yeah. Turns out.
there's probably a good reason you went getting mad.
So
You
that
know?
that brings up something interesting. There's been like psychological studies and stuff done saying that you take on personality traits of like the 5 people you hang around the most. So I
Hmm.
wonder if you are hanging around mentally ill people more and more and more years and years and years, if you will go
Again,
mentally
and
ill
he
yourself.
didn't leave. The thing is that they had living quarters
Yeah,
there, so
and he
he didn't
chose
have to
not to
like
use
go
them.
home. Yeah, so it was just one of those things where it's like you're kind of there all the time, bud. You kind of
Right.
don't move around a lot. You don't really take off work. Yeah, you know, I feel kind of like I'd be a little
Crazy.
insane after that. You know, probably
Go
not feeling too
crazy. Don't
great.
mind if I do.
Exactly, man. Like I said, he was just uh, by no means am I gonna say what an interesting fellow, to say
Yeah,
the
he was
least.
not an upstanding citizen. He
Not
was
a great
definitely a
person.
monster.
Yeah. To put it bluntly, he was a very terrible person, and he did some really terrible shit to a lot of people that definitely didn't deserve it.
Right. And like you said,
And
locals even today still say they hear that bell.
it's crazy, man, because there's like, again, this thing is just like one after another after another after another after another, and it's like, you know, because at first we get like, oh, back in 421, these people are invaded from their drove to this island from the mainland, and then they heavily defend it because they're like, we have nowhere else to go. These invaders just stop killing them, and they're like, let's just give them the fucking island. Just give them the fucking island. We don't need it. And then like, not even long after, you know, we're talking the bubonic plague comes, and then instead of like, they're shipping people from the mainland to here. So it's like they didn't. I guarantee you they weren't like, oh man, you know, hey Poveglia, do you think you guys could be like a little like storage? No, they probably just like dumped them on the side of the shore or something and just called it a day. And then like then after that you get like a whole bunch of people dying, and then not only that, after the bubonic plague, oh, Black Death comes in like 200 years later, and you're like, oh my god. And then after they cure all that and they fix all that, learn how to wash their hands, 1800s comes around, and then we're back into the asylum, man. And it's just like
They just keep sending
the
people here that nobody wants to deal with, and it's kind of messed up.
the fact that this place has so much history of death and like sorrow and pain and anguish.
Makes
I
what
would
they did
have
in
to
the
say,
70s really messed up.
I would make the statement, I'm not surprised if it is haunted, that this place would be haunted, because
Right.
what the fuck, there's no way in hell that this place would not be if it is. Just
Right? Like we said, we have records all the way back to 421 So, 1500 plus years of 1600 actually. Sorry, 1603 years of just death and bad shit.
Suffering, straight up suffering.
And
And
then
oh god, man, it's just there's so much here.
like I said, they sent people here that they were like, no, we don't want to deal with them, which makes the fact that they turned it into like an old folks home in 1975 kind of fucked up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they made it a geriatric center in the mid 20th century, and it closed in 1975.
Yeah.
And the entire island today is abandoned.
Oh yeah.
Everyone is prohibited from visiting, and fishermen don't go near it. And in recent years, some Italian construction crews attempted to restore the former hospital building, but stopped without any explanation whatsoever. And they just were like, nope, I'm
Yep,
out.
and the locals are
Bye,
just like,
guys.
well, yeah, that place is haunted. Of course they didn't stay. Like, the locals don't even question it. They're just like, well, yeah, that place is fucking evil. Of course, duh.
The locals are all like, why would you do that? That's
Yeah.
fucking stupid. Why, like, nobody's gonna go back there anyway. I
There's
don't know.
still,
And
they left the scaffolding up there. So if you, like, look at it on Google Earth, you can see the scaffolding from the construction still on that building where they did. They just straight up
mhm.
left it. They
they
abandoned
they
all the
saw it.
material and everything.
They saw it, went there, worked on it for like I think it was like 2 weeks,
Yep.
and then they just nobody said anything, and they just dropped all of it, and were just like, I'm going
Done.
home.
Yep.
I'm fuck this. I'm going home, guys. And a lot of people contest it. Like a lot of locals contest that it's abandoned because like nobody's interested in it. And
Right.
so obviously it has like a lot of underground attention for ghost hunters, historians, and paranormal experts like ourselves to claim that it's just one of the most haunted places in the world. And others just call it the Island of Evil.
Yeah.
And some people say that it's a peaceful island.
Yeah. Yeah, they say it's very peaceful, but I do know that like locals don't like talking to like reporters or out of show people
Mm-mm.
or tourists. They don't like talking about it to other people.
No, it's also because of a culture thing with them where they believe that if you talk about it, you're inviting the spirits
Yeah.
of that island to you, right? So
Right.
it's like they just don't want to talk about it.
Right. But honestly,
And
if you're just like looking at it like from Google Earth or something, it's actually kind of got some pretty parts to it. It's not a bad
it's a
island.
beautiful island, and it
But
looks
I
very
wouldn't stay
nice
the night
and
there.
lush. But I would not. I don't know. I would. I would like to see what's going on there, in my own curiosity. But yeah, and I don't know, man. It hits me so hard sometimes because I sit here and I think about it and I'm like, because obviously like famous ghost hunters have been there. I mean like
Right.
like
Ghost
Ghost
Adventures
Adventures.
went.
Yeah, Zach Baggins.
I have
Today
such a
we are
mixed
going to the most
opinion on him.
haunted place on Earth, and he says that every single episode. We're
Right.
here today at the most haunted place, a haunted asylum on the planet.
Right. I have
Yes.
such a mixed opinion about him because honestly, as far as like the paranormal world and like the occult world and stuff like that goes, he has that whole museum and he's trying to like talk about
I've
it
been to it.
more I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But then he talks, man, and I'm like, listen, if you just did stuff but didn't open your mouth, I feel like like,
He's like,
just
is that a ghost down there holding a knife? Aaron, go check it out.
by yourself.
By yourself.
Go by
Aaron, he's
yourself.
like,
We're
I
gonna
will
watch
actually die if I go down there.
Do it.
Yeah.
Don't be a pussy, Aaron. You.
Come on, man.
And he gets possessed
I
like
just-
every other episode.
Yeah, and then he's like, and he starts swinging.
I
at
just
his
wanted to
friends.
hit you for some reason.
Dude, I swear to you, I was feeling like I needed to cut you. Aaron's like, dude,
Yeah.
I think, dude, you need to go outside and get some air. You need to get some air, bro. We can't. We're locked in here. We locked ourselves in here. I don't know. I don't know. As much as I love Ghost
Yeah.
Adventures, don't get me wrong, I grew up watching it with my mom. It
It's
sometimes it gets to me. It gets to me just like after being older. Because when you watch it as a kid, I don't know, as a child when I was watching it growing up, it was like scary, you're like, ooh,
right.
that's so spooky. I could never do that. And then as an adult now I'm like, bro, I love
Well,
like the
and
debunks and stuff like that too that they got.
I do
But
love the debunks. Ghost Adventures does have one of the most compelling pieces of evidence we've ever seen as far as like poltergeist activity goes, and that was
I think
way
they've got a
back early
lot.
when they first got started. And they got that one with the, I think it was a chair or maybe a brick that just like flew,
Yeah.
and they had it
Yeah.
analyzed by experts, and like they went on shows about it, and like they still have it analyzed by experts as new technology comes out, and nobody can explain it yet. So they have
Yeah, because
one
there
of
was
the
no
most
footage. There
compelling.
was no footage manipulation or anything. I remember that being a
Yeah,
big headline when I was growing up. Was like, oh, there was no footage manipulation here. They didn't like have like
string or anything. You
yeah,
could tell by
Travel
shadows there
Channel
wasn't
didn't
a
do anything.
person.
And it was like just the perfect situation. I do remember that, and I will say I give them credit for the stuff that they do. And obviously, it's a TV show; they have to keep people interested. They had to do
Right.
stuff. Some of the network was involved, so I can't
Oh
blame
yeah.
them for everything. And I've been to his museum one time. It's a really cool museum, regardless of what I think of Zach Baggins and all the way his voice always makes me laugh. I don't know if I ever need somebody to like I would pay him as a voice
Could
actor
this
to
be
play a
a
monotone.
world on the other side? I'm just like
Exactly. Like all of his one-liners to open the show and everything were just fucking funny as hell to me. But his museum's really cool. I really suggest if you really are interested in going, I would go just for the experience, and especially if you're in the Vegas area already and you're just already drinking and having a good time, schedule
you
it.
want something
Just schedule
spooky?
the tour. It's fun. It's fun, and there's atmosphere, and like he has like if you pay for the exclusive stuff, there's like the basement and everything, and it could be fun. It could be really fun, and especially if like you're going because you go in a group, right? You go in a big
Right.
group. Sometimes it's with random people if you're just like one or two people yourself. So it was just me. I went by myself. I soloed. Because I was in a group with like I don't know, like 6 other people, 7 other people maybe. Um, but the whole tour was great. It was great, and he was there. He happened to be there, and I got to meet him. He's a cool guy. He's not pretty nice. So
Well, good.
it was cool. It was fun. It was enjoyable. I won't say anything bad about it because it wasn't bad. It was fun, and like if you like haunted houses and you like all that stuff, looking at cool artifacts is also just something. Like
Right,
if you
yeah.
ever just look at stuff like it's like going through like a curated museum
Yeah,
essentially.
he
So
owns like one of
it's
the
fun.
most haunted dolls in the world too, is there.
Yes,
Robert or
sir, and that's what
whatever.
I went to go see. So yeah, and that was creepy. I hate dolls. I've hated dolls ever since I was a child. So
I broke up with
there's
a
some more.
girl because I went to her room and she had those like porcelain clown Harlequin
Yeah,
dolls
fuck that.
everywhere. Yep, and I was
Fuck
like, I don't think this is
that.
gonna work, and I left.
She's like, we should go to my room, and you're like, hell yeah, baby, I got you. You get on there, and you're just like, hell no, baby, I'm okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much
I'm
what
out of
happened.
here.
That's pretty much what happened. I was like, nope.
And yeah, so it's insane. But again, like I said, we've had so many people visit this island and stuff like that that through obviously they go through like the government and they have to sign papers and you do all this other stuff. And the reason that it's quarantined off like this isn't because of the ghosts, and you can't see me, but I air quoted, isn't because of that. It's because of a lot of other issues. Because they do still believe that like because of the amount of corpses, because of the amount of things there, it is kind of a biohazard.
Right.
That's one of the main things that they say is like it's really, really not good for your health if you come
Right.
ill equipped. And that's
Right.
why
It's
I believe
apparently
in that
great for the
episode they
plants
do.
there. Super lush.
Yeah, well, the plants, I guarantee you the plants are digging it. They are loving that shit. And so Yeah, but it's just quarantined off because of biohazard and stuff. So that's why you need permissions, because they do have to go through a whole thing. You have to go through the process of like, oh, do you have the correct equipment? Here's a list of the equipment you need. Here's what you need to do this. Here's what you need to go do this. This is where you're going to go. This is where you're sanctioned. You cannot go anywhere else. Because they don't also, the government also doesn't really know everything. Like, they haven't really scoured the island
Right.
because of it, right? It's kind of hard to do that, and especially since there's no reason for them to go out and do it.
Right.
There's no reason for them to send out a team.
Yeah, there's like
Right,
there's
to
no
go.
treasure there. There's no
Yeah, there's
crazy
nothing. But even if they were to
resource
repurpose the island, it would cost
again.
them out the ass to essentially redo it, get all the bodies and biohazard off of it, clear the island, do all this other stuff, and then like cleanse the land, and then have to take down all the trees, and then have to go and
Yeah.
do all the landscaping, and then have
Yeah,
to do
you-
all the. It would cost the government way
too
too
much.
much money.
They would have to
for
completely scorched
practically
earth it,
nothing.
like you said. They would just have to completely scorched earth it and restart. So yeah, it's just not worth it. They're like, no, because now it can just be one of the most haunted places in the world, and now it's a tourist thing.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, there is a tour that goes around the island. It doesn't go in it, from what I'm aware. It doesn't go on it. It only circles the island and tells you about it, and
yeah,
it's a pretty small tour from what I remember. It's like an hour.
Yeah, they just kind of go around the island on a boat that moves kind of slowly, and then there's like a curated guide there, and she's like, "That's the bell tower where the doctor in 1935 killed himself." You know what I mean? Like,
This
and
is the
all
bell
of that.
tower. This is the bell tower where the mad doctor did a backflip off. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
Oh shit, Zach Baggins back again.
Zach Baggins.
It's just the island itself is regarded by many in the paranormal community as the Isle of Madness. This is because it was once home to the psychiatric hospital, right? And prior to being an asylum for treating patients in Venice, the island of Poveglia was a lazaretto, a quarantine center for the incoming ships as well.
Yep.
So, according to legend, massive infection broke out, causing that plague, and the Venetians that were infected and presumed to be infected were brought to the isle to either be treated or die. And the bodies were burnt afterward, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Now, to either be treated or die, that's pretty generous. It was almost always to die. It was pretty much guaranteed to die.
Treated was you were stabbed and picked at, and you were like, this thing exploded. Give me some results. What is this thing? I have no idea. And again, bodies were burned and buried on the island. And so years later, when it was converted to that psychiatric facility in 1922, the patients spoke of encounters with ghosts and mysterious people dressed from an earlier time.
Yeah,
so this is kind of talking about that. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say what's really interesting about this is some of those people they're talking about in Ghost they're talking about are like the white shadows, which was the same thing the doctor quoted when he killed himself in his journal or whatever. But the I guess technically, don't come for me in the comments, people, but technically if you're dead you're not sick anymore, so I guess they get treated a little bit.
Death can sometimes it cures you of everything. It does, truly. I just think it's really weird because like some of the ghost stories you hear from these people is like very interesting, interesting, because you'll hear them say some messed up shit. Like I have a small report here from one of the construction workers that were on the island constructing, and they said that their quote here is that we heard the screams of what sounded like 100 people off in the distance, as if they were burning.
Oh, jeez.
And that's all he said. That's it. And then he just walked away. That's what he said.
For me, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know if anybody's heard one person screaming, but like in a stadium, whatever, it's a little different, and you can hear it's like enjoyment, right? You can hear the screams of people being happy and joyful when somebody gets a goal or does whatever. An actual screaming human being from pain is the most horrific sound you can possibly hear.
Oh yeah.
And to hear 100 of those in the distance, that would freak me out too. And imagine your whole crew. And he says that his whole crew heard it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
none of them have corroborated on it because they don't want to talk about it. But I can see why you wouldn't. I mean, imagine you just. I would also want to bury that deep, deep inside me and never talk about that, because that would probably sound what sounds like the pits of hell to you as a Italian man. You're just trying to make a quick buck for your family, and you're
Right.
sitting here and you're just like, you know, there's probably other jobs. I think I'm good, guys. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, for real. Like, and why? Like, honestly, if I was in the construction and I heard that, I'd probably leave too. Not gonna lie. Um. But just all of the all of the crazy stuff that people have seen, have heard, just coming off of the island. Like, not even being on the island. They're like, oh yeah, we see stuff all the time on the island. We hear stuff all the time on the island. I ain't going there, but I see it and hear it. Like,
Yeah, and that actually goes right into the. So while there's been attempts to revive the island by the government and private initiatives, they largely fail for unknown reasons, which they're not completely unknown.
right.
Like I said, you can infer from the costs of everything and from everything. Even if you had somebody that was like, "I will pay you $1 million to refurbish this," still wouldn't be enough.
Right.
Gonna be honest, because it's still it is so costly. I don't think people realize how costly it is to renovate an entire island. By the
Yeah,
way,
from
this isn't
scratch.
just this isn't just like a building. This is an
And it's not
entire island.
and it's not an untouched island either. It's not you can just start clearing and building. You have to get rid of everything already there. Make sure
That's
it's no longer a
deconstruction,
biohazard.
reconstruction, landscaping. That's
Yep.
hiring foremen, people that know what they're doing, people to level off the island for inhabitancy, all sorts of stuff. So for me, I don't think it's completely unknown. I just think people are going to be like, it's not worth it, because who are they going to sell it to?
Right. Well, supposedly,
The locals.
well, supposedly, in 2014, the Italian government was like, "Nope, we're done with this," and auctioned it off to some wealthy Italian developer, and he was going to build a luxury resort there, but there's never been a groundbreaking ceremony, and it's 2024, and apparently he still owns it, but just can't find anybody that'll work it. Apparently,
Yeah. I wonder why. Because you need people that are local to build
yeah,
the shit that you want to build. So you are asking the people that genuinely don't want to be there to be there. So yeah, I can see why that wouldn't work for you. Because the
right,
idea you would have to be like, I am asking if you were like if that guy if you're ever listening to this podcast at some point and you want to say, I would like to hire some workers. Fly my ass down there. I will hard work for you. Build that shit myself. I don't care. Give me the plans. Give me the blueprints. Show me the 6 YouTube videos on how to build a house. I've got you. Give me
well,
the home building for dummies. I'll read it on the plane. I'm coming down. Like you need somebody
right.
to work for you. I'm here. I'm here for it. I got you.
Well, and that brings up another kind of interesting little tidbit. Everyone who has ever owned Poveglia, that wasn't obviously the Italian government, you know what I mean? Because they've sold it several times. Anyone that has ever owned Poveglia has never lived there. No one has ever tried to make a residence there. There's
Yeah.
got to be a reason.
I mean, I'm just saying, man. If you turn this into a resort and you were like, I own it for whatever reason. Maybe one day I'm like, hey, I own Poveglia Island. Everybody, I'm gonna build a resort there, but it's not gonna be a resort for good times. It's gonna be the
Right.
spooky resort. okay, you're gonna be there. I'm gonna get there, and the way I make my money back is that I scare you so much that you leave, and then I get to bring another guy in. You know,
And then you charge
same
a
day.
early leaving fee
Yeah,
and
exactly. If you leave, $600, bam,
Scooby Doo
slapped on the
villain.
table. Yeah, exactly. It was Mr. Joestar the whole time. You're right. I just wanted your money. This was all I wanted. This is the whole reason I built this thing.
Can I
You
still have
stupid
it? No.
kids. Give it to me. I'll do something with it. Don't worry. I'll do something.
What's crazy is we've talked about the sights and sounds that they hear, but what we didn't talk about is the smell. It apparently still smells like human decay if you get close enough.
Can I
That's
be honest?
crazy to me.
I wouldn't be
Yeah, go ahead.
surprised. I would not be surprised. Almost 1 million people have died on that island altogether. Yeah, it's probably gonna stink. It's probably a little
You're right.
stinky. It's a little stank, rank. You got dead people all over. I don't even know if animals inhabit the damn thing. Honestly, I haven't seen anything about animals living there.
Honestly, I don't think I have either. Maybe birds come by every once in a while, but
Dude, I just
yeah, I don't think
imagine
I've
the
seen
bird comes first over the island. First time you'll ever
it
see
just
a bird
throws
puke.
up.
Birds don't puke. First time you'll ever see it, guarantee you. Yeah, man, and oh my god, and so the reason the fishermen don't go is because they believe if they sail their boats near it, it'll bring you bad luck on your fish, and
Yeah.
more than likely your boat will just collapse. That's their belief, and so that's why they don't go around there, and so they don't really go over there. And the
Yep.
copious amounts of tales and legends surrounding the island continue to scare and fascinate those interested in the spooky history of this forgotten island. Which, I'm just saying, man, after learning about all the things that have kind of gone down, it's insane.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
And
it's so many people died there. 50% of the island soil is made of human ashes, and charred bones still wash up on the shore this day. Like, to this day.
imagine you're sitting there as a child on the shore of Italy, and you just like walking down. You're like, oh, hey, there's that cursed island. Ooh, yeah, nobody go over there. Ooh, you're trying to scare your friends, and you're like, ooh, yeah, there's a bunch of dead people over there, and then a bone washes up, hits you in the foot, and you're like, guys, I think
Nope.
I'm sorry, island. I disrespected you. My bad.
Am I cursed now?
Yeah.
Like,
You know what,
I need
guys?
to find somebody.
I think I'm going to church. I'm going to church. Yeah, so
Yeah.
again, with all the stuff that has happened on that island, I'm not surprised that half the stuff happens there. That happens, like the whole 100 people screaming in agony during hellfire. Yeah, I too would probably, again,
Not a
listen to that
vacation
and be
spot.
like, maybe not. Maybe I would hear that and I'd be like, I am definitely the first guy to die in a horror movie. I'm gonna tell you, I am the person to be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go investigate that, guys. I want to know what that's coming from, and then just
Ju-
walk into the forest, and then Nate just sees me. I don't come back. It's
See,
like, oh well, he's
see,
gone.
I'm I'm too large to have a run response. So if you ever see me running, you should start running too. Something's chasing me because I don't run. But I'm also the guy that if I think there's a ghost on the other side of a door, I'll throw it open and just start swinging, even if there's nothing there.
That's fair. That's fair, man. I mean, I don't know. I find all the things that are horrific very interesting. Like I have a tale of spooky ghosts. So one time I was at my at a girlfriend's house when I was younger, and
Already
we
fake.
were
No, I'm
hanging
just
out.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I lied to you all.
I'm
But
just
so
kidding.
I was there and I was spending the night or whatever, and it's such a stupid thing, but her house was like really fucking weird, man. It was weird because her parents always fought all the time, and there was like hella negative energy all the time around their house, and like it was just really bad all the time. And it was a decent decent sized house. It was like a 4 bedroom, 1 master, 3 guest bedroom, uh, 2 bathrooms, and like a gym area, a whole basement den area
That's a
that was
nice
like
ass
meant to
house.
be converted into a bar and stuff. So it was pretty cool. It was alright. It was a pretty cool place. And so like, but it always felt really weird. Like you could always feel like somebody's like watching you type deal, right?
Oh yeah.
If you felt it, if you know what it feels like, you know what it feels like. Well, so
Right.
I woke up and I got up and I was like, I'm gonna go get some water, kind of get in whatever. And my man, I am deaf in my left ear. I'll tell you this right now. I am deaf in my left ear, but clear as day. I'm alone in the kitchen, and this is a big house with like the really tall roofing, so like everything echoes, right? Like even if you're like
Right.
stepping, you can hear your echoing of your feet. Clear as day. I just hear, shh, he's in the kitchen. Man, I have never turned to a door that I saw that was open and it closed.
Oh.
And I was like, I sat there
Nope.
for a minute and I was like, ah, ah,
Start
ah.
screaming.
I've never screamed as a human being before, like truly screamed. But I like freaked out, screamed, and I was like, okay, hold on. Took me 1 second. I grabbed like a, what is it, like a crowbar? I had like a crowbar in the closet or some shit. Grabbed that shit, flung it open, flopped the lights up, and I was like, I was ready to fucking bash somebody's face in with this thing. And I was like, I had no fear of getting shot. I was more like, I am going to defend myself and my GF at the time. I was like, it's either me or them, and it ain't gonna be me.
Oh
I ain't
yeah.
going down without a fight. I went in there, and then like, dude, room was like freezing fucking cold. And I remember I just put the crowbar back, walked back into the room, closed the door, and I look at my GF, and I've never shook a person more violently. I was like, get the fuck out, get the fuck out, get the fuck out,
Get
get
the
the
fuck
fuck out. And I was
out.
like, and she woke up, she was like, wow, 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 wow. And I was like, yo, I just want to let you know, yo, shit is haunted. All right, good night.
Your shit is haunted.
And I fucking fell asleep like 30 minutes later. It was so funny, but it was also like very terrifying because like the thing was is that like I saw like a shadowy thing. You know, like how like it's dark, it's pitch
Yeah.
black, right? So like my eyes are adjusting. I'm like getting the fridge, and you know like they had a
Yeah.
fridge
It
that
was
like when
just a
you put the
shadowy
water.
blob, basically.
Yeah, and like I just see somebody, and then I hear like the door closing, right? And I was like, yeah,
Nope.
that thing got me so hard, dude.
So
Just letting it out there for people that want to know.
my house I currently am in gives me spooky vibes, and we've like tried so many things, and like we've like tried to do sage smudging and stuff, and the first time we ever did it, it went out like 14 times. It just would not stay lit. And then we finally got it, but it's still, sometimes I'll see stuff or hear stuff. But pardon me. The most compelling evidence that I've ever personally witnessed, and then my mom has it on video, is in Sheridan, Wyoming. It's a very small town in Wyoming. I guess it's kind of big for Wyoming towns, but it's not huge when you compare it to actual cities. There's a hockey rink there, like an ice hockey rink, and back then when this story happened, it was just dirt, and right down the canal
Mm.
from it there's these two big brown like city hall type buildings now, but they used to be apartments that, and some of them went underground. We lived in an underground one, and there were so many weird things about that apartment. Like behind the stairs was like a crawl space that looked like a dungeon. Right next to the kitchen was a cabinet that had a spiral staircase that went up to another thing, but it was too small for any like person to use.
Mm.
uh you had to walk up 3 steps to get to the toilet. Like, it was a weird place. But my mom has on video, we were all sitting in the um uh living room, and she has like one of the old cameras that has like cassette tapes in it, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And we're just sitting there and we hear something. Mom's like, it's gonna happen, and she grabs her camera and she starts filming the hallway. And we all she had a TV on a bar cart, and we all hear the squeaking of the wheels as the TV gets pulled out on the bar cart by its cord. like in between the kitchen and the living room, so it's almost in like the middle of the floor. And then the cord just drops, goes limp. And that's the most
That's
compelling
fucked.
evidence I've ever personally witnessed. I was like, what the fuck?
But you know that moment of like that. You probably had that moment of silence between each other where you're just like, brother, did you see this? And that
Right.
look of like, you saw that too, right? And then
Right.
like the realization hits you like a moment later, and you're like, yeah, no, I think I'm fucking good. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, we ended
And
up
like I
moving out
said,
of there like 2 weeks later, so.
yeah, I can imagine, man. I lived in an apartment last year, one apartment down the street from where I'm at actually right now, and that apartment, somebody shot some kid
Oh my gosh.
and then shot themselves. Yeah, well, I lived in that apartment, so that was fucking disturbing.
Oh, I
There
bet,
was a
dude.
couple times that you could like I would wake up and I would hear like a bang. It was weird, and I thought it was my roommate. And then like I'd go up and ask him. He's like dead fucking asleep, right? He always slept with his door open, so it was
I,
like really weird. So
I like that we have this here and that we talked about this place because this is actually a place I do believe is haunted. Truly, too
oh,
many people
100%.
have seen and heard and witnessed too much shit here.
Dude, I don't give a crap what other people say. Like I'm just saying, man. I'm sorry. The statement that got me that's like the number one is like so many dead people have burned to a crisp here.
Yeah,
And for you to be like, I heard people screaming as if they were in hellfire. That to me, I'm done.
yeah.
I'm already. You sold me. It's
Well,
here.
well, after our
Shit's haunted.
Amityville one, people were like, "You guys sound like hardcore skeptics." I'm like, "We're trying to come at it from a point of logic." And personally, the Amityville haunting doesn't make a lot of sense and has a lot of
It doesn't.
inconsistency.
Okay, okay. The Amityville horror is like to me. I just think I've always thought this, and I'll say this again. I've always thought of it as skeptically as I can
Right.
because it's just such a the story like from my experiences that I've had, never have I ever had something like that. You
Right.
know, like it's not something that's like subtlety is everything. And I say that about hauntings because it's like subtlety is everything and group experience is everything.
Right.
If it's just internal, which is just the family's story, it is just them. There is no one else. This has thousands of deaths recorded.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands, I should say.
Hundreds.
Almost
Hundreds of thousands.
half a million. I'm pretty sure it's pretty damn close to half a million
Yeah.
deaths on the island itself. You're telling me that like the entire island, I believe it's like 8% to 10 or 12% of the island is made up of humans.
50.
That
50% of the soil
yeah,
is
50.
human ash.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 50% of that soil is human ash. Yeah, that is more believable to me than a family telling me a story. Anyone can
Right.
tell a story. I can tell you a story. There's no problem, you know, that's part of
Mhm.
humans and our development.
Oh yeah.
But so but this is just one of those things where it's like there's ghost sightings all the time. This place cannot get sold and rebuilt at any point. None of the
Right.
locals. By the way, locals is like close to like
Venice.
100,000 people.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
Venice,
just
Italy. It's right off the
yeah,
coast
it
of
is it's
Venice.
nothing. It's not just nothing. Let me put it that way. It's
Yeah.
everybody is telling me that to me is like there's thousands of people's accounts of just passing the island and they're like yeah there's some like people on the shore and like there's accounts of people seeing people on the shore walking the shore at night that are like white glowing apparitions. The fishermen have had collapsed boats, like they're all of a sudden their
Yeah.
boats collapse when they've never had issues before when they're passing through the island, which is why they don't do it. You know, they've
Right.
had bad fish or they've there's a couple accounts from fishermen where they pulled up already dead fish as it was brought to the surface, which
Yeah.
isn't really a good sign as a fisherman. You want your fish alive before they get to them, So
Yeah.
there's that. There's no record of animals on the island that I can
Yeah.
find.
Me either. It's
And I'm just saying,
eerily barren of
desolate.
even animals. Yeah.
Yeah, it's eerily desolate, and there's a reason to all of it, right? To
Right.
me, and I will tell everyone here is that, like, anyone that's listening, I believe in spirits, right? I believe in spirits. I don't know how far I go on terms of like demonology. Okay, I don't know. Sometimes I think sometimes there's a little too much, like there's a little too many family problems or a little too much of this. Like, is it scary? Yes. Do I watch horror movies frequently? Of course I do.
Right.
I am a I am still skeptical only in terms of, I guess, just like some stories. There's a couple that we'll go over that I do hold this same belief,
Right.
and like they have pictures, right? Because obviously from Amityville we don't have photos, we don't have video,
No,
we don't
yeah.
have really anything, and the
Only
people that live
eyewitness
there,
testimony.
exactly, which is really hard. And so, like I said, this one I do believe 100% is
Oh, yeah.
haunted, and if any place is haunted, it's fucking this place, dude.
Right.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. For real.
But that's all I got, man. I don't have any extra research or anything.
No, that's pretty much we pretty much covered everything that I had as well. There was just so much of it. I mean, we had so much that has happened here. But like I said, I'm glad that we have this at the end to show we have personal experiences. We do believe. It's just it has to be believable. And that was what I think the problem was. People were talking to me about. They were like, "You guys came at it with such skepticism," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, because it's very skeptical and hard to believe. Don't worry. Wait till the
It's a hard
second
to believe
haunting
story.
file."
Yeah. The second one, the more of these that we go over, the more of them that I think I have better belief in than most. Like a
Right.
lot of asylums here that I've been to, like the one in Utah. I've been in the one in Utah and actually done an overnight stay there by myself. That's fucking haunted. That shit's fucking haunted because you'll be in that shit by yourself. And when I was inside the asylum by myself, I saw like wheelchairs moving around, and like I'm sitting here with like a pretty decent flashlight, right? Like
Right.
pretty decent. Cost me like $30, but it was a decent flashlight, and I see like wheelchairs moving around, and you could be like, oh, it's the wind, or it's something like maybe the ground is uneven, or maybe something of that same sort. But no, like we'll talk about it eventually. But there's plenty of stuff where like in that specific area, I stayed there the night, and I swear there was like this entire time you could feel. And by the way, I went in the summer. It's hot in
Right.
Utah, in a desert, freezing. The entire asylum is freezing, and the other thing is that they don't nobody occupies it.
Right.
Only during this month, right? Only during the month of October do they actually operate in it. They do some side stuff, but like if you talk to the people that work there, which I did, they are 100% like, yeah, that this shit is haunted. Like if you're here by yourself, you're gonna fucking hate it. And so I went in and did my whole thing, and after I came out, I definitely was like, I was very polite the whole time. I don't antagonize spirits in case there is like that chance of latching that people talk about.
Bro, Zach
So I'm very
Baggins.
polite. Yeah, I'd be like, Zach, get me, come
Yeah.
get me, possess me.
Push
No, I'm
me
like,
off this
no.
ladder.
I want you to push me off the roof now.
Yeah.
And then
Like,
yeah, like I'm good. I'm good.
yeah.
I don't do that. So I was very respectful the whole time. Did my thing, and like I said, that place is haunted for sure.
Oh yeah.
So there's
There's
tons
some
of
places you can
experiences
just
like that.
tell when you walk in, you
Mhm.
get a vibe. Like,
Well, it's the same thing as like, some of the medical equipment is just left in there, right? So
oh,
like
that
you'll
that
hear it
adds
like
to it.
clang.
That's freaky.
Well, you'll hear it clang, and like things will shift, and things will move, and you'll hear like a bed, like like the old spring beds where like
Oh yeah.
you can hear someone sit down in it. Yeah, you'll hear someone sit in it, and there's
Oh,
nobody
jeez.
there, and I'm alone. Like I was completely alone by myself in it. Same shit. Like I said, these asylums, dude. Any asylum haunts that people may have
Talk
questions
about.
on, that shit's haunted. Shit's
Oh yeah.
haunted. Rough shit happens.
Too
But
much fucked up shit happens there. Too much bad
like,
energy is left in that place.
mm-hmm.
Cause that's
But I think
everything, man. It's
that's
energy.
everything.
But but yeah,
But
so
yeah,
this was Haunting Files 2, Poveglia. We are not as skeptical as we seem, folks. Don't add us in the comments. But I believe our next episode, we're going back to cryptids, yeah?
we are going back to cryptids, and we have a good one for you. So we'll be back with that. And I guess until next time, we can take a delve deeper on those cryptids, huh? And
That's
so
right.
from there, I say goodbye there.
Goodbye, everybody, and thanks for delving with us. Have a good one.